Hey, good morning. Trying to be responsible. First time ever. Hey guys, great to have you with us this morning, this Sunday morning. I'm doing announcements, which I have printed for me, so I don't have to guess, which is nice. But before I get to that, just want to thank you all for continuing to stick with us through this COVID craziness. I know church is different than what it usually is. But you know, I the other day I was going through Facebook. Does anybody ever do that? Go through Facebook? No, is it? And I was seeing a bunch of old pictures of the different groups at NEC hanging out, and you know, I got the warm fuzzies. Honestly, being together is awesome. And although this is not the same, it is a way of keeping in contact, so that someday, hopefully very soon, we'll be able to do that again, Lord willing. All right, so first one, we got one more Serve Day left, and if you don't know what Serve Day is, it's us going to our new church building and fixing it up and getting it ready, and so we're already at the point where we can paint. And if you haven't been able to take part in any of the Serve Days yet, it's a great way to get a little exercise on a Saturday and to see other people, right, which is a good thing, and also to, and somebody's cell phone is on. I'm not going to say who, Heather. So yeah, to like see the building, to have a little fun together, and to get our building ready. Actually, I haven't turned my cell phone off, so hang on a second.
I'm going to call you.
No. All right, we're good. So that is this coming Saturday, December 12th. All right, so it says 8:30 to 4:30, but you don't have to do 8:30 to 4:30. Like, we usually do it in two shifts. We'll do the 8:30 to like noonish, and then the like 1ish to whatever 4:30. Anyway, go on anychapel.org to sign up, and it'll give you the actual information, something better than I just did. All right, so that's the first thing. By the way, all these announcements are probably going to end with something like go on anychapel.org and register. The next one, sharing Christmas joy. This is one of the projects of NEC to provide Christmas gifts for children. And man, could you be more like Christmassy than like, you know, giving gifts to kids who otherwise wouldn't get them. I think this is one of the best things that we do all year. So yes, absolutely, go to anychapel.org to sign up. And listen, we only have 8 kids left who need sponsoring. We could do that before the day's out. I'd love it if we could have all of those boxes ticked off, because those boxes are wee little kids. And, you know, Christmas is a great season if things are great, but things aren't always great, and it could be doubly hard sometimes. Maybe even especially if you're a kid, and especially during COVID. So this is a great way that we can show love to them in the name of Christ. So the drop-off, if you're going to do this, is 12/12, which is a Saturday, 9 to 1, here at 195 Main Street, Franklin. I say here because that's where we filmed this at the church offices. So 12/12, which is a Saturday from 9 to 1. And then we need a couple drivers, just 2 drivers, because we have to deliver these things. And they're, you know, some of the things are bigger, like bikes and stuff. So, you know, we can't like, you know, put them on the back of our bikes kind of thing. We need trucks and larger cars and things like that. So if you could do that, that would be great. And the deliveries will happen on that Sunday on the 13th. So just contact Dina at anychapel.org. Third thing, yay, worship night. Woo! So we got a Christmas worship night coming up where we're going to be singing carols and, you know, Christmas songs and awesome stuff like that. And it's not going to be live. Unfortunately, we can't have you all together in one room. We're not trying to kill you. So it's going to be online, but maybe that's even better. You know, you can come together and, you know, sing some of these songs together as a family. If you don't, you know, carol on your own, you can carol with us. And I know that Heather is emceeing this thing, so you have that to look forward to. And I'll be doing something, and presumably my hair will be better at that point. But that will be, we're gonna show that on the 16th, Wednesday the 16th at 7 p.m. And you can find that on the website, which is anychapel.org. And the last one, behind the scenes, is coming up right after this service. So stay on this channel. Like after, you know, the benediction, after whatever, the closing words, after the prayer, don't log off. Don't turn it off. Just wait like 3 to 5 minutes, and we're going to come back on with a behind the scenes. And we're going to talk about 3 important things. One is a building update, and everybody wants to know. And do we have pictures? We're going to figure out. I'll draw some pictures. And we're going to talk about finances, and then we're going to talk about the Christmas Eve services. So don't be left out, right? Don't miss out. Just stay on this Zoom or whatever this is. Twitch. Stay on Twitch until our bright shining faces come back on, and we look forward to seeing you there. Good morning, and I'm leaving. Mark.
I don't know what is happening today. Clifford, he hasn't even finished his coffee yet. I don't know what is happening. Good morning, guys. Great to be here. Great to see a camera, but I think you're on the other side of that. Crazy hearing Cliff talk about the announcements of singing Christmas songs and whatnot. We're in December, and Christmas is coming. So I thought today would be a great day to maybe start singing some carols. So I'm going to open up with "What Child Is This?" and sing along if you will. What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Man. Nails and spears shall pierce him through, the cross be borne for me, for you. Hail, hail the Word made flesh, the babe, the Son of Mary. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, peasant king, to own him, the King of kings. Salvation brings, that loving hearts enthrone him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary, the babe, the Son of Mary, the babe, the Son of Mary.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everyone. It's It's good to virtually see you. I wish I could see you, but I know you're behind that little dot right there. And so it's good to be either in your living room or your car or somewhere on your smartphone. And so someday we'll be able to, talk and chat around some coffee in the back of the church sanctuary. But until then, it's really great to be with you. And I'm glad Mark's kicked us off. This is actually the second Sunday in Advent. The first official Sunday in Advent on the church calendar was last week, but we snuck a Thanksgiving service in there. So, Mark, I'm glad you started off with a Christmas song, because I think we all need Christmas songs early. It's one of those days that one of those years that it seems like everybody is itching to celebrate a little bit early, and maybe it'll bring some relief from the boredoms, from the stress, from the craziness of the pandemic. And for some of you, it's a blessing. For others of you, it's a curse. For some of you, it's both a blessing and a curse, but we'll probably be home for the holidays. And there are some pretty good indicators that we are gearing up for this. And I think the rate of the spike in cases, the travel restrictions, the quarantine restrictions is all making everybody hunker down. And there's been like three big indicators that we're all preparing for a good Christmas in whatever location we're hunkering down in. And the first one is that Christmas is coming early this year, or at least the celebration of the season of Christmas is coming early. It was the first week in November, and Phoebe and I were driving home. We're driving down our road, and it was like November 4th, and she said, "Dad, look, there's a Christmas tree." And sure enough, November 4th, in one of the windows was a fully decorated, fully lit up Christmas tree. I would love to. I wish this was the auditorium, because I would say raise your hand if you set up a tree before Thanksgiving. And like, that never happens. And to see that on November 4th, it had to be a fake tree, because that thing will be dry as dirt come Christmas. But it probably was a fake tree. So that's one sign. You start to see things earlier. The other sign was, I've been reading a few different articles that saying Christmas trees are more popular than ever. In fact, Christmas trees sales, live Christmas trees, they're flying off the Christmas tree farms. Live sales have been 30% higher. That's a huge number, 30% higher. If you got a 30% raise, that would be fantastic. So that's a huge number. And so in the middle of a pandemic with economic and financial uncertainty, people are wanting a break and wanting Christmas to be just right. A Christmas tree industry expert, yes, there are experts in the Christmas tree industry, say that more people are buying trees. The trees they're buying are bigger, and they're not just buying trees, they're buying lots of other decorations. And Laura found out this, we always get a tree the day after Thanksgiving, and we had a couple strands of lights that weren't working, so we had to get other ones. And the closest stores to us are Aubuchon or Big Lots, and both of the Aubuchon had this huge light display, Christmas box, Christmas lights, and it's completely sold out, not a single box. Same with Big Lots. Luckily, Walgreens had them. So if you live near me and those are your only options, go to Walgreens. And so everybody's going to decorate. And then the third indicator that we're putting all our eggs in the Christmas basket is that J.P. Morgan released an economic statement saying that the way spending is trending this year is we'll have the biggest holiday spend in 2 decades. So we're going all out for big trees early. We're decorating, and we're spending money on gifts like there's no tomorrow. And so all those things to me saying, we know we're going to be home for the holidays. We're hunkering down, and we're going to make this the happiest Christmas. But here's the deal. We can surround ourselves with the best circumstances, with the best trappings of Christmas, with the most amount of gifts around the tree. And it could still not turn out the way we were hoping. I mean, probably know this from past vacations where you're set, everything is going to be perfect. This is going to be the best vacation. but or maybe the best birthday party or the best date night, and then something goes wrong, because you can only manage external circumstances. You can't manage internal ones. And so if you are stressed out, if you're anxious, if you're afraid, if you're angry, if you're resentful, if you have no inner peace, then no matter how good your external circumstances are, your internal circumstances are gonna trump that. And so that's why we created this series, this Christmas series called Home for the Holidays. And we're going to look at 4 keys, 4 essentials to having a great Christmas. And it's all revolving around this one Christmas concept. There's an Old Testament and New Testament passage that you often find on Christmas cards, and the focused phrase is, and she, Mary, will give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. And so we will have a great Christmas if we realize and embrace the fact that God is with us. And so that's what we hope to do in the next today and then in the next 3 services heading up towards Christmas. And so this week we're looking at a cool passage that very poetically describes not only creation, but Jesus' work in creation. And it is often used during Christmas time as well. And it's from the book of John. John chapter 1. I just realized I wrote Luke. Did I write Luke in the slides too? Mm-hmm. Sorry, everybody. It's not Luke. If you go to Luke, it's not going to be there. John chapter 1. And it's a very poetical, almost philosophical look at creation and Jesus' purpose and mission, why Jesus came in the first place. And so it starts off in very poetic fashion. In the beginning, the Word had already existed. Now, if you're not familiar with the Bible, if you're not familiar with this particular passage, the author is using the word, which is a Greek word logos, where we get logical and logic, and so it was a bigger concept, meaning like the wisdom of the universe, and sort of the knowledge of God. The word was with God, and he's using the word. This is hard to talk about. He's using the word to talk about Jesus, and so again, it's poetic, it's philosophical, but it's actually pretty cool, and it's really simple in some ways, despite once you figure out what pieces, which pieces mean what. So in the beginning, Jesus, the Word, had already existed. Jesus, the Word, was with God, and the Word was God. And there's a lot of repetition. This is also a part of poetry, but it's also some emphasis. John is trying to make a point. So in the beginning, Jesus had already existed. Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. He existed in the beginning with God. You just said that. I know, I'm trying to be emphatic. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through him. All right? Listen to that for a second. God created everything through Christ. And nothing was created except through him. There's the redundant repetition for emphasis again. The Word gave life to everything that was created. So we have 2 sets of repetition here. In the beginning was Jesus. Jesus was right from the start. He was with God. He was what was God. All right? And then you get the second set, that everything was created through Christ. That God used Christ to bring about creation. Nothing was created except through him. And then to repeat verse 4 again. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and his life brought light to everyone. That is such a cool statement. Of such a creative way of talking about Jesus' purposes. So basically it's saying Jesus gave life to everything that was created. So think pre-creation, pre-human existence. Jesus' main purpose was to give us life, to bring life into creation. And so Jesus gives us life. He creates humankind and the mechanisms to keep on creating. So Jesus creates life. And then once creation is all set, Jesus brings light to that life, brings light to us. So Jesus' purpose before creation is to give us life. Jesus' purpose, once creation has happened, is to bring us light, is to show us the way, so to speak. I'll refrain from making any Mandalorian references. It's funny. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this. I'll keep him anonymous. But I have a good friend who is doing some painting during the week at our new building. He's a professional painter, and in this one day, there was only the electrical subcontractors and him, but he was off in the corner painting, and they didn't realize he was not there. And so they were swapping out our temporary electrical service, and so they powered down the entire building while he was painting. Now, if the one thing that our building is fantastic, one thing it's short on is windows. And so when the lights are off, it is dark. And so if you have a wet paint roller in your hand and the lights go out and you have to find the door, you're not going to see light for quite a while when you're in our offices. And so he was alive. He didn't hurt himself. But I think of that if you can grab your cell phone light at least, then that light will show you the way. It'll guide you. It will help you. It'll give you hope that you can get out of there, and it will bring you to safety. And so that's just such a cool way of describing Jesus' purposes early on. One is he gave us life, and once we had life, he gives us light, and that's really the poetic essence in John of Christmas. Jesus came to give us light and life. But here's something interesting. The story takes a little bit of turn for the worse here in verse 9. The one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, all right, so we all know who he's talking about, Jesus, the one who's the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. That's why we celebrate Christmas. He came into the very world he created. It's all making sense, right? It's pretty simple. He came into the very world he created, but the world didn't recognize him. I think that's fascinating. The world didn't recognize him. Is it because he wasn't what they expected? Did he not recognize him because he came as a baby? Maybe. Did he not recognize him because he came in poverty? Did he not recognize him because he came in very humble, non-powerful, very weak circumstances? Did they not recognize him because he seemed very opposite of a king creator? Suffering, poverty, displaced from home. It doesn't say. John just says he came into the very world he created, but the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own people, and even they rejected him. It's fascinating to think about it. The very creator of the universe, who breathes life and gives light, not only wasn't recognized, but some people even pushed him away, rejected him. I'm trying to think of a really earthly, like human, normal, everyday life parallel to this. And the best I can think of is, like, let's say, you had a baby, and you were around the baby for the first couple years, and then you had to like go off for a job or military or something, and you had to go off for 3-4 years, and you would talk to your child on the phone, but that was about it. And then when you move back home, think about it, you gave birth to this child, and you're trying to talk to this child, but because you weren't there and present, they didn't really recognize your face, and they were really unsure of you coming into the home and maybe spending the night. It's an interesting concept from a humanistic standpoint. From a spiritual standpoint, it makes perfect sense. We see it all the time. People don't recognize when God's at work, and people even just reject Him. I don't want to hear about it. For whatever reason, they push God away. But there's hope if we keep on reading. But to all who believed and accepted him, he gave right to become children of God. They are reborn, not with a physical birth resulting from human passion or plan, but birth that comes from God. So Jesus became flesh and blood, human. The Word became human and made his home among us. And he was full of unfailing love. Another translation says he was full of grace, but I like that unfailing love. He was full of unfailing love and truth. And we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son. So if we want to know God, we want to know how God would act, we want to know what God would say, we've got that in Jesus. Jesus gave us life before we existed, and now he's bringing us light. He's bringing us hope. He's bringing us a pathway. He's showing us God. The question is, will we recognize him? And so I want to look at the first key for our Advent series. And I talk about this a lot, and I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but the first key is to switch off autopilot. It's the switch to manual. Because when you switch to manual, you have complete control of the situation, well, relatively speaking. You're not on autopilot. You're not letting the computer or the AI system or the process guide you. You are making each decision. You're in the moment making each decision. That, I think, is the first step towards success in having a great holiday, because God will be with you. God will be with us. Switch off to manual. So how do we do this? I want to look at those two things, not recognizing and then rejecting. So the creator of the universe comes back in and the world doesn't recognize him. I was thinking about this, and I have two really easy examples, very simple examples, but it was helpful for me to think about how we might do the same thing with God. And the first was, one of my kids had texted me while I was at work, "Dad, can you bring home this I can't remember actually what item it was, and I meant to ask, but I forgot. It was something that had to go in the fridge. That's all I remember." I'm lucky I remembered it was Sunday. So normally I text back either something snarky or yes, no prob. And I was super busy. I didn't have time to text. I had to run a bunch of errands too. And while I was running errands, I got the thing and I put it in the fridge where it normally is. And then like a little later, maybe a half hour later, one of my kids, I'm not going to mention them because I didn't ask permission, and I don't want to give them $5. I have to give them $5 if I mention their name without asking for permission. So kids, sorry, I'm keeping you generic and general. And so that child came by and said, "Hey, do we have any X?" It was the thing they asked for. And they opened up the fridge and they looked and they said, "We're out of X." And actually we weren't out of X. I had just bought it. We had a full thing of X in the fridge. And but why didn't they see it? Why didn't they see it? Because they believed it wasn't there. It's so amazing what our perception can do to reality. And because they believed I hadn't got it yet, because I hadn't responded to their texts like that I always do, they couldn't see it. It was right there. And I said, "Actually, it's right bottom shelf on the door right there." And then they saw it. I think this is a key insight to how we live our life. We have this conception that we're on our own, and that what things are, it is what it is. The Coach Belichickism. And we let our limited belief close off the possibility of something different or something new or something that is actually real and present. And I thought, man, that's a great example. How many times is God at work? Is God in the midst of something and we can't see him because we don't expect it? We don't believe it to be true at the moment, or we're just not thinking about it. Another example of not recognizing it is happened to me. It was very maddening. I was headed out the door. It was Friday, and I wanted to get into the office at a certain time because I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to do. And so in my mind, I had set that time. And if you know me, I get maniacal about, I get all surly if I can't get out the door or want to. And I couldn't find my wallet. And I knew at lunchtime I had to run this errand. I had to buy this thing that we needed, and so I'm going to need my wallet. Plus, if I get pulled over, I want to be able to give my license. And so I'm looking all over. And so I look in my pants pocket from yesterday. I look in my coat pocket. I look where I normally put it. There's a little table in my house that I normally put it. Not there. So I start looking around my bed. I look at. I just can't find it. And I'm looking for like a half hour, and I'm getting mad and getting frustrated. And I'm like, fine, I'll just go to work without my wallet. I'll have to try to come back and find it at a later time. So I jump in the car. I see my bag sitting there. I look in my bag. There's my wallet. I never put my wallet in my bag. I don't know how. I swear to this day that house elves broke into the house at night and put my wallet into my bag. But why didn't I find it? Why couldn't I find it? I searched for 30 minutes in every logical place. It's because I was looking in the wrong place. If I just would have went to my bag, it would have been right there. And so if I knew where to look, I would have found it. I think this is also another good glimpse of how we relate to God. We expect God to be in certain things, but not other things. Or we expect to find peace of mind or happiness in the bigger, better, more glitzier trees and the more presents, and I got everything that this person wanted, and so they're going to be happy, and I'll be happy, and this will be the greatest holiday since Bing Crosby danced with Danny Kaye. So we can often look, or we want to see God in the positives, but we don't realize that, man, God is in the nitty gritty all the time, every day. I had a friend tell me that the day before Thanksgiving, where everything is busy and everything is crazy, that somebody needs some help. And what I thought I was going to hear was a complaint about how they had to take almost half the day out to help this person. I thought I was going to hear a complaint. But actually what they told me was, and it was the biggest blessing, to actually connect in this way and to help and just to make a difference. And so I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a great example of, again, I didn't ask their permission or else I would have shared the details. I got to figure out how to ask permission way ahead of time. And so I thought that was great, that in what normally would be disturbing or unwelcomed or whatever is where they found some God win, where they found God in the interaction. And I think oftentimes we're looking for God in a cool thing, a sparkly thing, but often God doesn't come in the circumstances. He comes in the interactions, that if you're not looking in the right place, you could think there's nothing but bad going to come out of this interaction. Uncle Joe is going to be a jerk. Sorry, I always use Joe. Let's call him Fred. Uncle Fred. Uncle Fred, the next thing out of Uncle Fred's mouth's going to be dumb. If you're thinking that, then whatever Uncle Fred says is going to be dumb, even if it isn't dumb. But if you think, hey, if God is with us, then even if Uncle Fred says something dumb, God is still there. And if I can clue into it, I might be able to ask a question that resets Uncle Fred. Or I might be able to listen to what's behind what he's saying and give him a little peace of mind. Or whatever. And so we can easily not recognize God. One is because we ultimately don't have this belief that he's here in the now. He's not in the fridge on the bottom shelf, when actually he is in the fridge on the bottom shelf. And the other way is we could just be looking in the wrong places. So that's not recognizing God. Then there's the other thing. It came to my own people, and my own people didn't. His own people rejected him. I was thinking about this the other day. Our very first serve day, our very first painting party. And by the way, I want to say that if you sign up for a serve day, you're only painting. you're not building anything, you're not framing anything, you're not doing plumbing or wiring or anything, you're just painting. I just want to clear it up. Cliff said, we're fixing stuff. We're not fixing it. We're not fixing anything. We're just painting. But that very first serve day when we were painting, it was towards the back end of the day, and someone who I know very well, who's a good friend of mine, came in to paint. But I didn't recognize him. One, he had a mask on. Two, he had a hat on that he never wears. So he wouldn't get paint in his hair. And then he had this old overcoat on, so he wouldn't get paint on his clothes. Plus, the building's kind of cool. And I didn't recognize him at all. And I'm like, who in the world is this? And they said hi, and I still didn't quite. I didn't lock on to who it was. And it was actually Peter Carlson. So Peter Carlson, if you're watching, I did not initially recognize you. And so I wasn't going to reject the person, right? I'm a pastor, and if people are coming to help at the church, that would be really mean for me to reject them. But I wasn't going to connect with him in the same way. And then I heard him started talking. And once I heard his voice, then I recognized him. And I was like, oh, that's Peter. And I was like, hey, Peter, la, 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 la. The more I reflected on that in this passage, I think that's how we reject God. We don't recognize God in the moment. He doesn't look familiar to us in this situation. And the circumstances are such, maybe it's pain or difficulty or stress or anxiety or fear or hurt or whatever it is, we can't recognize God in this situation. But if we can pick up on his voice, then it'll clue us in. But here's the hard part. The first two parts are easy to solve. You could change your belief if you don't think there's eggnog in the fridge, but there is eggnog in the fridge. If someone tells you, "Hey, there's eggnog in the fridge," now you'll know to really look for it and you'll find it. So we could fix that easy. But one thing we can't fix easy is learning someone's voice. And so I got to know Peter's voice by hanging out with him. And over time, we've hung out in so many different scenarios and circumstances that his voice is very familiar to me. And so even if he was behind closed doors and I heard him talking, I would recognize him. That's Peter in that room. The same is true with God. If you begin to experiment, if you begin to look at him and find him, you'll start to hear his voice. And you'll start to hear his voice when you pick up scripture and you read it and apply it and say, oh yeah, that happened to me last week when I was interacting with my brother. Or, oh yeah, when you begin to pray and connect with God, look for him and listen. And so you pray about one thing and 3 days later, that prayer is being answered. And you connect that back to your original prayer 3 days ago. You begin to pick up on his voice. And so to switch off autopilot, to switch on to manual, I think there's three things. Shift our belief and realize that if you're asking, is God in this moment? The answer is always yes. He's in the moment. He's in the moment. Look for him. And if you can't find him, don't force it. Just wait. Just listen. And realize that sometimes you might be looking in the wrong places. He could actually be in the stinky, dirty, ugly, messy places. That's the Christmas story. And then, if you can learn to recognize his voice, you'll begin to pick up on it. This is such a big key, such a big essential to having a great Christmas, because God is with us. Because if we can realize that even if we have a small, half-dying tree, and there's only a couple gifts, and we're eating stale French fries from McDonald's, we could still have a great Christmas. Because it's about God with us in the interactions. It's not the trappings, the gifts, the coffee, the desserts, the breads in the morning, cranberry bread and all that good stuff. That's all great. But what really makes it is the warmth of connection. And when you can recognize God, find him, then even what often can be the most annoying connections can turn around, and light can shine in the darkness. So that's what I want to challenge us all to do. Let's switch off autopilot now. If we can switch to manual now and start looking for God and shift our belief so we know he's there, so we're going to find him, we're going to see him, and start trying to hone in on his voice in the cacophony of thoughts and noise in our head. Can we hear the whisper? Can we identify the nudge and tune into it? And so when we hear that, we can recognize it and respond. By the time Christmas comes around, no matter who shows up or doesn't show up, or what the circumstances in, and who's saying what on the Zoom call, it won't matter, because we'll be tuned in to the Christ who gives us life and light. Let me pray for us. Heavenly Father, it's so amazing to hear those words in John, that the world he created did not recognize him. We say, how is that possible? But then in our own world, how often is that true? It's so easy to say we're Christians, say we believe, have that rudimentary bit of faith, but when we live our daily life, kind of forget about it. And so help us to recognize you in every moment, in every interchange, in every interaction. God, I pray that you would bring us the light and the peace and the hope of Christmas now, and may we carry it through and bless others with it as the season unfolds. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen. Yes, before Mark comes back up, I just want to remind you that we're having a behind the scenes. It's sort of our State of the Union. We have them periodically, and we're not going to stop this stream. It's going to keep on streaming. We're going to take a 3 to 5 minute break, and then we'll come back and do the behind the scenes after the service. So we'll see you in a little bit.
I want to end with a old hymn, and speaking of like recognizing God, I think when we can start to do that, and this song I think helps bring that out, Be Thou My Vision, that we start to see things through God's eyes, through Christ's eyes. And so as we close, I'd love this just to be kind of a prayer for us, that God would be our vision, and that through seeing him and hearing and recognizing his voice, that we can see things through his eyes as well. Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life. Be thou my wisdom, and thou my true word, lie ever with thee, and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, and I thy true Son, thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Riches I need not, nor man's empty praise, thou mine inheritance now and always. Thou and thou only first in my heart, my King of heaven, my treasure thou art. Am I closing out? Is that it? 3 minutes?
Yep.
All right, 3 minutes. We'll be back.
Welcome back, everybody. And if your sound's up, but you're getting your cup of coffee or your I won't say what's on my mind. Actually, that's probably best, and we'll give you a couple seconds. So I want you to be ready to ask questions. I want to try to make this as interactive as possible, even though you're not here. in person, and so you could either use the chat, and I see some of you already have already chatted this morning. You can use the chat that's found in the web stream. I think you actually have to log into Twitch in order to use the chat, but you could use the chat, or you can email or Facebook. Is that right, Heather? Facebook too? I think so. She's like 4 rooms down, so she can't hear me. You could email Heather at anychapel.org or jump on Facebook. I think New England Chapel's Facebook? I don't know which Facebook she meant. Yes. Yes. And so get those up and running, and so when you're ready to ask a question, you can just type it in, and she'll send those questions to us. And it's just going to, unfortunately, usually we like to do this in a panel and have everybody live, and you'll see all of us, and we usually bring in a budget person, but because of social distancing and whatnot, it's just me behind a desk, Cliff's behind the computer, and Heather's behind the chat and email stuff. So what I basically want to do is just give, I was thinking, what do we need for the State of the Union? How do we talk about this sort of year in review with in a year of a pandemic, and how are we finishing up? Are we finishing well? And I thought the 3 best things I could tell you is give you a building update. Because for sure we thought we'd be in our building a long time ago, and we got hung up in the planning board for 9 months. But how are things going? Are they wrapping up? And so I thought we can give you a building update. We can give you a budget update. I don't know if you've been wondering, but how is the church doing in the middle of a pandemic when there's been job layoffs and cutbacks and whatnot? Are we doing okay? And then the last thing I want to do is, this is more of an announcement rather than a State of the Union, is what is our Christmas Eve service going to look like? And so I'll do them in that order. We'll talk building, budget, and then Christmas Eve. And so for the building, I want to say that so much of it is complete. So much of the electric, the plumbing, the HVAC, the framing, the sheetrock, those things are either all done or mostly done. And so that's super good. All the basically what we did is we gutted out the whole entire thing, ripped up the plumbing, ripped up the electrical work, left nothing but the roof, walls, and ceiling. And if you were bowled in the FECO's Bowlodrome, you'll know that there wasn't many walls. There's only really like 2 supporting walls inside. And so it was just a big cavernous space. And now all of that is brand new. Brand new plumbing, brand new everything. Half the ceiling's done. Most of the other half of the ceiling is going to get done this week. What else can I tell you about? It's looking really good. And really, this is a quick shout out to our architect, because the more I'm in there now with it all sheetrocked out, and you could see all the walls and all the features, it's looking really good. And what I was trusting the architect's word on paper, 2-dimensional, I can now see, and it's exciting. It's going to be really cool. I think we're going to be very happy with our church home. So thanks John for all your architectural help, and the building team's been fantastic. We've been meeting forever. That team deserves a lot of kudos, all the blood, sweat, and tears that's been going on. And so I don't have any pictures, but we provided a lot of tour opportunities, and so hopefully you got to see. And they sheetrocked up the sanctuary and mudded all that up in the AV booth and the kitchen and the cafe, and that's all been sheetrocked. So it's looking really good. I won't say when. Just don't text me that. You can ask any question, but when will our grand opening be? We're driving it as fast as we can now, and things are coming quicker and quicker. The pace is picking up, and we're aligning things up, and the lights are being hung, and we need to finish up the ceilings. Then we can get the carpet in, and some of it will be carpet, some of it will be polished cement, some of it will be vinyl tile, and so. It's all wrapping up. I can't say when. It's going to be 2021 for sure, but hopefully early 2021. And if you get a chance and we have more tour opportunities, take us up on it, or come on the 12th to paint. We'll be priming up probably the stage sanctuary area and the lobby area. Come out to that. You get to see it. It's really cool. We're going to be really happy in there. And the great thing about it is not only is it going to cost us significantly less than what we were renting at 40 Kenwood, to the tune of $9,000 a month less. But it's going to be just the way we wanted it. It's going to be just the way we wanted it. And so we're pretty excited about that. And everything's new and everything's efficient. And so we're going to save on utilities. And I think it's just going to be a fantastic home. So if you get a chance to serve or you get a chance to take the tour, please do. I think you will really enjoy seeing it. One of the biggest comments we've gotten so far is almost everybody who sees it says, this is a lot bigger than we expected. And when it was just the bowling alley or the gutted bowling alley, it looks a lot smaller. But once we started building out the walls and framing things up, it seemed like it kept expanding and expanding. And you can almost get lost on the left side now. If you wander through the office way into the big kid zone and little kid zone, you could become disoriented because it just kind of keeps going. And so, so that's the building update. It's coming together. I would say we're over the 75% mark. I don't know exactly when we're open, but when we have a firmer date, we'll communicate that. We'll probably do a few celebratory tours on the back end of that before we actually get our certificate of occupancy, but it's going to be fantastic. So check it out when you get a chance, and until then, you'll just have to trust me that it's coming along and it's looking really good. Now the budget. Budget is this time of year I love, except for when it comes to budget, because New England Chapel for almost all of its existence has been a church of such that January is pretty good, January through May is pretty good, then the summer starts to tank, and then September comes and we start to pull up, and we often make a quarter to a third of, usually closer to a third of our operating budget in the last 2 months of the year, which is scary because you just have to trust that it's going to work out, and it always works out eventually through the generosity of all of us collectively. And so this year has been different. I remember thinking in March, wow, when things were shutting down and layoffs were starting to hit, what's going to happen? What's it going to look like? Are our donations going to bottom out? Are we going to have to lay off staff? What's going to happen? And that was in March. And I got to say, we've been really, really blessed. And we had this really unique situation happen at New England Chapel that the best metaphor I can give for it actually paralleled my fantasy football. This is my first year doing fantasy football, right? And so I had no idea what to do. I just did my best. I tried to do some research, and I got lucky. And out of the gate, I started winning with these absurd points per week. And I started out in first place and kept on trucking in first place. And until about 8 weeks through, I was in first place, not knowing what I'm doing. Then I lost 4 straight, and now I'm on the cusp of not making the playoffs. That may sound like a bad parallel, but it's kind of what happened to us. So I was hearing and trying to empathize and sympathize for my pastoral peers in churches around us and around the country. I connect with some other pastors from different parts of the U.S., and they were reporting about a 20% drop in operating budget income from donations, and in March we didn't experience that. In April we didn't experience that. Actually, the first, I would say, 8 months of the year or so, or March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. The first 8 months of the pandemic, we were really looking at a 3% loss. A 3% loss would be tough in normal years, but that's fantastic in a pandemic year when most everybody else is hitting a 20% loss. And so we were riding into first place until October hit. For whatever reason, October and November, the wool, or is it, no, what's that? The rug has been pulled out from underneath us. And unfortunately, we've experienced, I don't know why I'm smiling while I'm saying this, but we've experienced one of the worst Octobers and Novembers we've ever experienced. And, I think, so in one respect, I'm very grateful for how things started and continued through most of the year. On the other hand, October and November were tough, and we could really use your help. And so because of October and November, we actually find ourselves in the spot we always are in, where we have this year-end deficit, and we're looking for the back end of pretty much Thanksgiving on to fill this gap. And the gap this year is about $200,000. And so from what we were hoping for in donation. If you're new to New England Chapel and you hear you're $200,000 behind, talk to anybody who's been here for 3, 4, 5, 10 years. $200,000 is a pretty customary spot to be down the last 6 weeks of the year. It's not fun, but collectively, a little gift here, a medium gift here, a large gift here, and we can make it through. So if not being in person, not seeing us week after week has got you out of the giving habit, please jump online. We have a very, very secure donation system. It's bank secure, it's bank grade. And so you can go on to newenglandchapel.org. There's anychapel.org. There's a little tab that says give, and you could just select operating budget. There's operating budget and a building budget, capital campaign budget. Just select operating budget, and any gift, whether it's 100, 1,000, or whatever, any gift would help us fill that gap. There's probably some questions around the building and the budget, but the Christmas Eve one is such a quick announcement that how about I just finish up the presentation side of things and then just open up for Q&A. Does that sound good? So if it was Christmas Eve, I am super excited about this. I'm like, how can we make this special? We cannot do Christmas Eve from behind Cliff's desk. And so what I hope to do, we really are trying to put together a full-blown service in typical awesome New England Chapel Christmas Eve service style that will knock your socks off. And so I don't want to give it away. Some of you may have already heard through the grapevine, but we have a couple really cool things that we're putting into this year's Christmas Eve service, and 2 or 3 that will really make you glad you tuned in. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have showings this year. Instead of just throwing it up on our website once and we're going to have, very typically like we do every year, we're going to have a 3 o'clock showing, we're going to have a 4 o'clock showing, and then we're going to have a 5 o'clock showing. And so think about what times you want to view this, and you won't regret it. The music's going to be great. The message hopefully will be good. But then there's a couple surprises that you will really enjoy. And so our Christmas Eve service will be shown on December 24th, the day of before Christmas, at 3 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock. So find out what hour you want to sit down and watch it with, watch it at, and it's going to be fantastic. And if you want to grab a candle, because we always do a candle lighting, then get that ready. If you want to get on your best Christmas duds from the waist up, you can do that. Well, you won't be streaming, so you can never mind. Yes. Oh boy. Yes. So that's the building the budget in Christmas Eve. What kind of questions do you have? Heather just gave me 3. So can you tell us about any cool features in the new building? Yeah, there's some. Yeah, that's a good one. Cliff just said sound system. Our sound system is going to be fantastic. If you caught our last Christmas Eve service in the high school, they had a really nice Bose system. we're having a very similar system. It's going to be really a top-notch, spec'd out just to our room coordinates and size. It's going to sound good, and even better, it's going to stream good. So we'll keep on streaming. We got these two little robotic cameras that we can maneuver with a joystick and zoom in and zoom out, and so our streaming is going to be way better than it is now. I mean, we're doing the best we can with 3 pastors, no tech person. So the streaming is going to be great. The sound's going to be great. One of my favorite features is right when you walk in, the lobby is going to be very engaging. It's going to have this factory feel to it. If you're new to New England Chapel, you'd be like, what, factory feel? Well, we met in a warehouse and now we're in a converted bowling alley. And so, everything will be right at your fingertips. So you walk in, it'll be wide open space concept, and it'll be offices, kids zone, bathrooms, sanctuary, cafe, all at your fingertips. You won't have to guess, you won't have to wonder. One entry point, very engaging space, lots of little nooks and crannies to step aside and hang out and chat and catch up. Our cafe is going to be really cool. I know this is going to sound weird, but we have this cool glass panel garage door in our cafe. That's a cool feature that I'm pretty excited about. One very boring thing that I'm excited about is we're going to actually have a key card entryway, and that was the one thing that I promised Karen we'd have after ordering about 135 keys over the last 20 years and not getting any of those keys back. Having a key card access would be great. So there's tons of little nooks and crannies, cool things in different aspects of the building. And when we give you a tour, we'll talk about them. We'll talk about the Kids Zone features. We'll talk about the youth room features, the small chapel. That we have a sunken open air small chapel that's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool features about this building, and we're at budget, which we didn't go over, which is amazing. We might even be a little under budget on the building, but we'll see. There's still a lot of stuff to do. Will we have 2 services again? So I think we're gonna have to play it by ear and see how many people come back and how often they come back. I actually, as much as a volunteer and production paying 2 service can be, I like it from a missional standpoint, because if someone has soccer at 10, they can go to a 9 o'clock service, or something. I like the 2 service idea. And really, it'll have to depend on how quickly people come back into the building. I'm hoping that once the vaccination's out and things open up, that more and more people will be willing to come back once it's safe. We'll have all the protocols in place, and it'll be we'll make it as safe as possible. But we'll actually have adding services will be our way to growth, because we have only have a limited parking lot. We can't expand that parking lot anytime soon. And so we can grow easily by just adding another service. Are we on budget for a new building? Oh, there we go. We're actually a little under budget for our building, and we haven't skimped on anything. And so that's just been through just favorable bidding process. We got hung up in the planning board for 9 months. The blessing to that, actually, there was 2 big blessings to that. One, we renegotiated some of our bids and got some bids lower. And so, but the other thing we did was our construction loan. We refinanced our mortgage that we had for the land and the existing building, and included a construction loan in that. And we jumped from 5.25% interest to 3.75% for a commercial loan. That's amazing, and that's real dollars per month savings. And so our construction budgets. We're at or below our budget, and our mortgage is very favorable. So what other questions do we have? Here, will we get to help move in? Is that a sarcastic question? Yes, you will get to help move in. So we have those 6, now 7 trailers. That's 7 trailers just so we can move some stuff out of one trailer to get at the carpet squares that are in the back of a couple trailers. But so we have 6 full trailers, and two of them are just full of chairs for the sanctuary. And then we have office furniture and kids' zone furniture. And so if you're willing to help, yes, there will be opportunities to help move in. The bummer is the timing is probably going to be a cold move. And so we'll make it as fun and warm and safe as possible, but we'll give you some move-in serve day possibilities. What other questions do you have? Heather, any more?
He's walking.
Are the bathroom stall doors opening in the ladies' room into the room or into the cubby? All the women want to know. I don't even know what that means. So, bathroom doors, are they opening into the...
Sanctuary, maybe? That's right.
Oh, into the sanctuary?
Oh, no.
Oh, into the room or into the cubby? Oh, so do they swing open towards the toilet or swing open towards the sinks?
Do you know the answer?
I am stumped.
Me too.
I know somebody who knows, but I'm not going to call him out right now. I'll hopefully out the stall door. All right. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. We will make sure the lady room doors swing out. Did they swing in last time? I can see how that could be inconvenient. I shouldn't say we'll make sure. If there's some kind of code reason or whatever, if there's a choice, we'll have them swing out. I'll note that for our next building meeting. Interesting question. I'm glad you asked it. I'd be happy to answer any more
People are curious
specific
about
questions.
the cafe.
Cafe is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's open lobby, so you'll be able to. There's a wide entrance into the cafe, and then there's two doors and a garage door that flows from the cafe to the sanctuary. We are hoping to have some good coffee makers, like legit commercial coffee makers. So the coffee beans that we have, they're usually great coffee beans. We get them from Honeydew. Will actually taste great. Our old coffee makers, you could just brew hot water and it would taste like bad coffee. So what else can I tell you about the cafe? Another cool thing about the cafe is there's this big window. It's about 12 feet long, and we've made a window bar so you can sit with a laptop or sit with a cup of coffee or sit with a book. And that table ledge is actually made out of bowling alley. Also, the cafe window that the coffee will get passed through to, that ledge is a bowling alley. We stash little pieces of bowling alley everywhere. There's two 10-foot conference tables made out of bowling alley. There's a table over here or a table over there that is made out of the FICO's bowling lanes. And you can see the little triangles and the little dots and the red lines. And it's really cool. So we'll keep some of that FICO magic alive throughout our building. Last call for questions?
She has another one.
What is the big vision for NEC in and around Franklin and beyond?
Whoa, that was so that is a fantastic question, and I'm glad you asked it, because one of the things that we will not allow happen is oftentimes a building project can turn an outward focused church inward. And we won't do that. We just won't do that. So as much as a energy, time, and resource suck right now the building is, we're only doing that because it is the most feasible, best way to set us up to help connect more people to God. Right, so we meet in a shoebox, we meet in a home, we meet out in the streets. If that was a more effective way, but I think at this particular time, if you look, we are trending as a culture towards experiences, and in fact, people are trading in, instead of buying a house, rent cheaper, and have more experiences. And so you see people gathering at craft breweries, at craft coffee shops. Everybody loves to go to this cool farm-to-table restaurant. We're becoming even more and more experiential driven, and we want church to be like that. We want church to have this cool experience where we connect with people, we actually connect with God. And so that's why we're excited about this building, not because it's a building. Honestly, if we didn't have to build it, if we didn't have to pay a monthly rent, we wouldn't. If really streaming was the best way to reach people, we would just stream. And so our bigger vision is to be the biggest blessing we can be to our surrounding towns. We want to be such a church that if we cease to exist, if a meteorite came and blew us off the face of the planet, then the towns would be like, what are we going to do now that New England Chapel's gone? They were so helpful to the Y. They were so helpful to the food pantry. They let us use their space for free. Or whatever it is. We want to bless the socks off our neighbors in increasingly more helpful ways. And so our bigger vision is to keep on trucking the way New England always has been. Building authentic community for people who have given up on church but not on God, to experience, embrace, and express the love of God. That's kind of our in and beyond our walls. That's our mission statement in a very short nutshell. But church has always been about what God is doing in and among us and how we could take that blessing and pour it back. And so Greater Franklin, but also we do a lot in Worcester. We do some service trips around the country, whatever's been hit by natural disaster. Unfortunately, there's always a flood or a tornado or something that we're going to help. And then around the world, places like Haiti and Kenya and the Dominican, we really want to express God's love in as many places and with the best partnerships we can. And that's why we partner with a small amount of partners. We don't spread ourselves too thin, but they're partners that we trust and invest in, like Straight Ahead Ministries and Walking in Light in the Great Brook Valley area ministry and Mission E4, and there's so many others.
Another quick when will the new signage for NEC go up?
Yeah. So our building will be in and be able to use our building probably before we fix our sign and outdoors, because we had such a delay and got stuck in kind of the quagmire of the planning board. We really want that certificate of occupancy before we try to do anything else, just in case there's a slowdown or a holdup. We don't want that to keep us from using our building. And so we'll go for our certificate of occupancy, then we'll be able to open the doors and use the building. And once we have that CO, then we'll try to tackle fixing the facade, painting the building, of course. It needs it bad. Fixing the landscaping, chopping down that giant sign, and in its place, we have a concept of a really cool but really simple, more discreet sign. A couple granite posts and a wooden sign that says New England Chapel. Really nice, really simple, a little understated, kind of like New England Chapel. And so the parking lot, the landscaping, the paint on the building, and the signage will all be done after. It'll be the last. So it'll be the last to go. We'll be using our building probably before that's finished and wrapped up.
I have two more, so final call. What will NEC do to rub shoulders with the poor in the way that Jesus did?
Mm-hmm. Here's something cool, actually, about another thing about that building. So when we were in 40 Kenwood, we were tucked away in an industrial park. 300 East Central Street is diagonally across the street from one of the few public housing apartment buildings. It's called Glen Estates or something like that, or it's kind of like behind McDonald's. And so there's apartments back there. They're building two buildings in the lot next to us where that Keegan Auto place is. There's going to be two, I think they're going to be 100, I can't remember how many units now off the top of my head, but they're two big apartment units. So we're actually going to be right at the doorstep of not your typical more affluent Franklinite, but then we will always look for the least, the last, the lost. That's embedded in our mission, and so that's why we do stuff with Great Brook Valley. That's why we do stuff with Kenya. That's why we do stuff with Haiti, and we try to do as much local stuff as we can. And there's plenty of need locally, but we also realize that the resource disparity between local need and global need sometimes is way out of whack. So we want to continue to reach beyond our country walls, beyond our church walls. And so we will always seek after ways to serve the poor, ways to serve. I like to think of it as those 3 L's that Jesus always talked about: the least, the last, and the lost. And those come in all different sizes and shapes, and they are rich and poor, they're young and old, they are representative of every pocket of humanity.
Great. So I think that's the, we have one final question, unless anyone writes something, but how can we pray for the new building?
So you can pray. So this is saving us some money, but it's also not the most time effectiveness. Is that really the building team, the building committee is the GC for the project. So we have a couple volunteers and myself. Really, essentially, there's 2 or 3 of us that are there every day trying to move things along. So basically, you could just pray that as we push and apply pressure, that things align. There's no main obstacle to completing it. It's just a matter of continuing to push and direct and push and direct, and so that would be my biggest prayer for the building. My biggest prayer for the church in general is let's fill that gap. Let's fill that gap, because we set our 2021 budget based on our income from our 2020 budget, and so if we can finish well, it'll set us up nice. And so when the pandemic's over and people fled back, we'll have all the typical means and processes and ministries up and running. And so you can just pray for the organization of that last push for the building, and pray for the generosity in that last push of year end.
Good.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for taking some time to hang out with us, and I hope.
One thing to share: all the children have been sponsored.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
I just saw that text. 103 kids have been sponsored. So no, that is fantastic. Yeah, that is fantastic. So way to go, everybody. I love the generosity of our crowd. We've been able to give Christmas gifts, 80-something meals. We gave a half a cow to the food pantry, which they were pretty psyched about. And their clients were pretty psyched to get grass-fed, grass-finished beef when they pull up to a food pantry. So way to go, New England Chapel. We are bringing out the best in those around us. Have a good day, everyone. Go Pats.